This is the Agentic Advantage. I'm Bill Stevenson. I'm a strategic account executive here at UiPath.
I'm Masaki Kumamoto from the UiPath incubation team.
The Agentic Advantage video series is designed to illuminate how companies of all shapes and sizes can leverage agentic automation for competitive advantage.
In this episode, we're going to talk about how enterprise company can leverage agent automation with RPA, agent, human, with all the governance. And we're going to talk about some of the example we are working on internally and with customers.
Okay, Masaki, let's get right into it. This is episode 2 of the Agentic Advantage. And I thought what we might do first is go back to episode 1, where we talked about traditional robotic process automation, what some refer to as deterministic robots, right? Plus human in the loop, now plus agents or LLM powered agents designed to do work in a kind of non-deterministic way.
Mhm.
And then what that foundation of governance looks like, or trust, what we call the trust layer, that helps companies feel comfortable leveraging these technologies to do work inside their organizations. I think it might be important for us to just kind of back up a little bit and recover some ground that we talked about in episode 1, because this is such an important concept for
Right.
companies to get right. So Masaki, help the listeners understand how in this new world of agentic automation, traditional robotic process automation plays a role, plus human in the loop, plus governance. Can you give us maybe a minute on what that looks like in kind of this new world order?
Yeah, for sure. So traditional enterprise automation tend to rely on the robotic process automation a lot. So robotic process automation is basically rule-based. It's like you code the whole process
Right.
deterministic way, like a if and if else condition. A lot of time in the business process, there are a lot of ambiguous decision making step that
Right.
only human could do. So we
Mm.
included human in the loop, so-called, within the robotic process automation flow. So human can validate certain different condition within the flow. But with agents, with AI-powered agent, now you can, instead of using human in the loop, you can let the AI agent decide this ambiguous or
Mm.
non-deterministic step, and then human will be just a guardrail of the AI
Mm.
agent decision. So we are not fully relying on uh, AI agent decision, but it's going to be combination of AI agent and human. So the outcome is going to be much more sophisticated and faster because humans are putting less time on decision making. And the
Yeah.
whole process has to be governed by the platform and the
Mm.
UiPath. As we developed our technology around enterprise automation, we already had some of the foundational capability to do such a
Mm.
governance, and we just adding agent on top of it. So we are going to have very sophisticated RPA, human and agent automation within the enterprise company.
How important is it, Masaki, for companies that are considering leveraging agentic automation or AI agents to have this other piece of the puzzle, which is traditional robots? That's one question. And the second question is, how important is it for the AI agent to also have a human in the loop?
Yeah, so most of the company probably want to first start from the traditional rule-based
Mm.
enterprise automation if the company hasn't tried yet, because those traditional approach can bring a huge value to the enterprise companies. But the thing is, a lot of enterprise company have deployed huge scale of robotic process automation most of the time. And now those companies are looking for even further automation opportunities. That's where agents can be really helpful, because in fact, a lot of enterprise automation still rely on human validation in between or within the automation. So we started seeing some AI agent use cases within existing automations that is deployed in enterprise companies, or they are finding a completely new automation opportunities outside of existing automations. And so that's my view on how agent automation can be helpful for enterprise companies. And that doesn't mean a human in the loop is not going to be important. It's actually very important, even far more, because for the deterministic automation, the human validation is, it's easy to imagine it's important because some decision can't be made by rule base. AI agent, however, can make very ambiguous ad hoc decision, but because AI agents will make those non-deterministic decision, there's got to be some kind of a supervision, especially for business critical workflow. Let's say AI agent make mistakes. You can't really blame the system for the entire workflow's fatal situation. In the end,
it's interesting because like the traditional robot, traditional RPA, if you will, is not going away. In fact, there's many processes inside a company that are deterministic, that are rules based. That's where the traditional robot or robotic process automation plays a key role and always will play a key role. But then you layer on top of that the agentic automation or the AI agent, and the AI agent can do more work, right? The non-deterministic work that you talked about. But you don't want an AI agent doing the deterministic work. That doesn't make any sense, right? So to your point, you and I'm glad you said it, companies should really start with the deterministic traditional robotic process automation, layer on the AI agent, because that does non-deterministic work. But like you said, it's the strength of the AI agent is almost its weakness, right? Its strength is it can do non-deterministic work. It can think, reason, plan, which is incredible. But in some cases, companies may not want that in all parts of the process, right? So its strength, it can be its weakness. And I think that's where human in the loop plays such a critical role.
That's right. And you can think of the real world situation, why we still want the deterministic way. So basically humans are like agents, but in the shape of like a real world body. AI agent is the same, but even without AI, let's forget about AI agent for now. Even currently, as a human, when we work, we still need some process to follow. Like the process has to be defined somewhere, and human work within the process, following instruction that was decided by the company. It's not like we are adequately deciding everything on demand. And the same can be said for the agent and for agents, like human does. They need managers to oversight what they're doing, to make sure if their decision was properly made. So it's really intuitive to think when you think about AI agent as if they are like normal employees.
I think that's the right way to think about it. And it's actually pretty exciting, right? Because the AI agent will actually call upon or leverage the traditional robot, right, to do the work that the traditional robot is really good at doing. The agent not so good at doing. They work in collaboration, and then you have the human in the loop to validate, to verify, to check, right, critical processes or critical steps in a process that need to be checked for the company to feel safe, to feel like things are being managed well, to feel like the guardrails are in place, right? I think these things are going to be critically important as companies start to put their feet in the water and start to get used to and get comfortable leveraging AI agents.
That's right.
I know you just got back from overseas. I know you spent a lot of time with our teams in Japan and Singapore. I'd love to hear kind of what you saw over there, maybe what was most exciting to you, what our teams are working on, what our customers are working on. Maybe give us and our audience, give us a use case or two that we could think about.
Yeah, for sure. So a bit of context here. So within my team, which is called the UiPath incubation team, is working with multiple customers to build AI agent use cases currently. We are seeing pretty exciting new automation use cases, such as the one I explained in episode 1, general ledger code agent. It's classified as general ledger based on the semantic understanding of item lines within invoices. And the similar pattern is the harmonized tariff schedule coding. It's pretty much the same idea as general ledger code, but for the especially for manufacturing company, they tend to import and they export a lot of items. And in the US, you have to classify this code called HTS, Harmonized Tariff Schedule. There are 17,000 code, and somebody has to manually classify that for each item lines. And the AI agent happened to be very good at those classification. And the other use case, other classification use case, credit card companies or financial institution often has this process called MCC, Merchandise Classification Code process. They have to categorize merchandise shops into a classification like a gas station or convenience store, supermarkets, stuff like that. AI agent happen to be very good at it. So we are seeing a lot of classification use cases among existing customers. So that's what that's a few example of many that we are working on with customers. And like Bill mentioned, I was in Japan and Singapore last 2 weeks. What we were doing was basically in UiPath, we internally had agent hackathon, where our UiPath members think of new use cases and build a demonstration and some presentation around it. And people were very creative because they really spend a lot of time to figure out use cases based on the customers they engage with. I'm going to give some example, which was pretty cool. The one example was any on field workers related industry, such as oil and gas, manufacturing, utility. Their agent is called compliance inspection agent. So as you know, you work with utility companies, right? We have a lot of customers that field workers has to deal with, like machines or on-site equipment that needs to be, that has to follow the some of the compliance rules.
Compliance rules and regulations.
And any issues happen, field workers has to make a report and they submit it with some description, and it tends to be very hectic because you have to open the applications and there are hundreds of field that the field workers have to manually input. So the one of the team, UiPath team, made a demonstration around was this compliance inspection agent. Basically, we prepare the application and the field worker just have to send the picture of what's going on with the machine, and then quick description of what's the issue. Not long one, but this on the back end, once the form is submitted, agent is gonna summarize what's going on based on the image of the picture. It could be
That's
multiple
cool.
with some description, and the agent can classify the type of issue which is going on based on the classification code that is registered in the system, and
That's
the
fantastic.
necessarily generated the necessary field information for the field worker, so they don't need to type everything.
That is so important, Masaki, because as you know, these field technicians or field service workers, they have so much work to do in the field, right? Repairing, inspections, taking photos, diagnosing problems. There's work orders. There's just so much for these field service technicians to consider. So everything we can do to take some of those manual processes off of their plate, it does a bunch of things, right? It improves employee satisfaction. It makes the service visit shorter. It probably makes the service visit more effective, right? Fewer errors. And to your point earlier, there's a compliance mechanism or benefit, right? In utilities and manufacturing and so many industries where regulation is required for certain types of maintenance or operational things that have to be done in the field. So, man, the benefits there are just tremendous.
Right. And the big thing about this is something Lulu-based approach couldn't achieve.
That's right.
Because, one with the compliance inspection agent, it's taking the image as an input. With a Lulu-based approach, we almost never could do any real world interaction because image is too there are so many information there, and we couldn't really extract any meaningful information with Lulu based. But with the large language model technology, which is used for the back end of AI agent, now the AI agent can understand the situation of what's going on in the image, and also semantic understanding of some of the text within the system, and they match those information and they analyze semantically like human can do. So that's why we could achieve such a use case. And this one is obviously still example that we are going to introduce to customers, but it's really promising.
I think, it was funny, just a personal use case. I was looking at my homeowner's insurance and seeing if I had the right coverage and if I was paying a fair price. And so I had got my policy and it's due in March. And so I thought about reaching out to some friends of mine who live in my neighborhood to see, hey, am I getting a competitive rate? Do I have the right coverage, et cetera? But before I did that, I took a picture of it and I uploaded it to ChatGPT and I said, analyze my coverage. Here's my zip code. Here's the value of my home. Analyze my coverage and tell me if I have the right coverage, the right amount, if I'm deficient in one area or I have too much in another area. And then tell me if my premium is competitive relative to my zip code and my home value. I was blown away by the result. And I was telling my wife, it feels like magic in some ways, right? The technology has advanced so far, so quickly that you can take it for granted. I just took a picture of my phone, I upload, and all of a sudden I have an analysis of a picture. Yeah. It's incredible. In the olden days, we had to do that in an entirely different way with intelligent document processing and machine learning models and things of that nature. Yeah. It's just incredible how fast technology has advanced in the last 12 months.
It is definitely. And the one thing I would like to mention is a lot of AI solutions nowadays tend to rely on this chat-based interface, which is good. Very useful for most of the use cases. But what UiPath has been focusing on is, especially recently, is this back-end AI autonomous agents. Because as the company size get bigger, a lot of business transaction get bigger as well. The number of transaction increase, and when we look at those transaction from as a high overview, they tend to follow certain flow, which means we can make a process out of it, and there are a lot of deterministic decision making, and there are certain parts that has to rely on some intelligent decision making, where that's where we can make an AI agent. You don't want to rely on chat interface for that kind of use case, because we know that the process is transactional, high volume. You don't want the human to every time to stand up the chat bot and send the similar information. The beauty of an autonomous agent is some system trigger can kick the whole process, and the AI agent will work within it. So you can really minimize the amount of human interaction and human effort within the process, so those humans can focus on more critical and important work rather than them initiating the process.
Well, Masaki, let me, as we wrap it up here, let me give one more use case that I'm working on with a customer, and then I'll ask you to introduce our next episode to our listeners. But let me talk about this use case, and I'm going to kind of dovetail off of what you talked about earlier. This happens to be a regulated industry, and it happens to be in a contact center environment, right? So currently in this customer, we have hundreds of attended agents working, right? So you call the call center, the call comes into the agent will kick off a robot to go pull data, gather information, synthesize information to make the job of the contact center agent faster and that experience for the customer better, right? So those are attended robots.
Right.
Well, what they're looking at now, or the agentic use case, is this, that some of the calls that these call center agents receive, they have to look through policies and procedures that are, policy documents that are relative to the customer they're talking to. So they may have a certain payment plan available,
right?
That may apply to only certain customers. And there may be 10 or 12 of these that are available, but they're not all available to every customer. So the call center agent not only has to know those policies, they then have to synthesize what those policies are about and then present the appropriate one to the customer they're talking about. So think about that for a moment. It's a ton of information that the call center agent has to absorb. And we know that turnover in a call center is high, right? So there's a big learning curve there. Right. Then they have to take information from the customer they're speaking with, certain data from that customer, and present them with the appropriate policy and do it in a way that's coherent, and also try to do it quickly, right? Because talk time is expensive, and they have to deliver a good experience for the customer. All of that is super challenging. But imagine if the call comes in, the robot has the information from the customer, passes it to the agent then scans all the policies that are available and presents the right one to the customer based upon that customer's unique information.
Right.
Then the call center agent can present that to the customer, and they can do it in lightning speed. So this does a bunch of things for the agent. One, the agent doesn't have to know all of these policies in and out, right? So the learning curve is shortened dramatically. Number two, the agent delivers the right policy to the right customer at the right time.
Right.
That's a massive improvement in call experience. And then at the end of the day, the client, the customer of ours, their costs are going down because that call time is shrinking. So it's an amazing benefit profile by injecting into that process an AI agent to handle part of the process that's the hardest, the most onerous, and the most tedious.
Right.
I just think that kind of example that exists in all departments, by the way, right? That's a contact center example, but That one is super exciting for me because it's so beneficial to the company, the agent, the employee, and the customer.
Yeah, and that solution is definitely scalable. And the one thing I would like to add there is the deployment speed is nothing like traditional programming
That's a
and
good
the
point. Yeah,
rule-based
that's a really good
approach.
point.
You don't need to make the flow end to end. You have to still make the process definition like a BPM and MN, but for the agent part, the what you need is the prompts and some of the tools that agents use to retrieve information from the multiple system, and
That's right.
those automation tend to be very small and narrow scope, so it's easy to and fast to deploy. So the production time is going to be very, very fast compared to traditional approach. So yeah, I'm excited to see those use cases in production.
That's a great point. Well, Mustaki, this has been fun as always talking to you. I'm so very much looking forward to episode 3, where we're going to talk about augmenting your current talent pool.
Mhm.
Every company has talented, special workers that are doing great work. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail in episode 3 about how you take robotic process automation plus agentic automation plus human in the loop and this governance layer, and you inject it in your organization to make the employee experience better and to get more value from your current workforce. So that's it for episode 2. Everyone, please come back for episode 3. Misaki, thank you for your time today. I'll see you very soon.
Thank you, Bill. See you soon.